The approval of the National Rationalised Specifications Association of South Africa by NERSA, which could see the country go up to stage 16 load shedding, has had South Africans up in arms. NRS deals with the guidelines for implementing load shedding, and the organisation says this compliance mandatory code of practice addresses load reduction practices, system restoration practices, critical load and essential load requirements during system emergencies. Now, the NRS says this is to prevent a national blackout or total electricity grid collapse. Vally Padayachee, the chairman of the management committee of the NRS Association of South Africa and former executive manager of Eskom, joins us to clarify this. Vally, thanks for your time. I'm glad we have you so we can get a little bit of clarity on what this all means. So thanks for your time.
A very good morning to you, Leanne, and to your viewers, and many thanks for inviting me to your show.
It's a pleasure. Now, you said the statement you issued must not be misconstrued as an Eskom document. So this is where we want you to come in and explain the organisation, firstly, that you're chairing, the NERSA National Rationalised Specifications Association of South Africa. It's quite a mouthful, but what does it do? How does this work, and what's it all about?
Thank you, Leanne, for that question. I think it's an important question, and I'm glad that I'll be given the opportunity to provide some clarity. The NRS Association of South Africa is an organization which is about plus or minus 25 years old, and the organization has been doing some excellent work generally in the background, and with the advent of load shedding, we've sort of come back into the forefront. Now, the NRS Association is a very powerful organization in the energy sector in South Africa, given our membership. Now, our membership includes the national regulator, which is NERSA, the South African Bureau of Standards, Eskom, meaning all of Eskom's line groups, all 8 metros, and the rest of the units, which are represented by the AMEU, which is the Association of Municipal Electricity Utilities of South Africa. So you can gather it's a body of like-minded entities, powerful entities, and our core mandate is to produce specifications and codes of practice, like the one we did now, the edition 3, and we do that to service the ESI, the electricity supply industry, and the EDI, the electricity distribution industry, and we've been doing that for 25 years, and we've produced probably over 100 sort of standards.
Okay, so we talk about this particular code now. It was submitted to NERSA for approval last year. This now has come through. Has such a request ever been made before? And why did NRS make this request from NERSA, and on whose behalf did you make this request?
Okay, so that's another important question. Generally, all the standards, all the codes of practice specifications we produce are voluntary and do not have a legal mandate, okay, because we are not constructed in that sort. And I must also add that the NRS Association is an independent body. We don't, what's the word? We are not aligned to any single organization. We act sort of collectively on behalf of our members. So that's an important point. Now, to give the document legal mandate or compliance status, we can either take the document through the SRABS process or through the SANS process or through NERSA, because those two bodies are empowered by the Electricity Regulation Act to make such approvals and to give those documents legal sort of status. Now, why have we done that? Now, let me take a step back. The national electricity grid is operated and effectively and efficiently managed, and has been done so for the last 100 years of Eskom's existence, and it's been done very, very effectively. I mean, we haven't had a blackout for over 100 years. Now, since 2008, we had the first load shedding in South Africa, and that progressed and got, well, let's call it worse up to now. And when we first had the load shedding in 2008, there were no codes of practice, so specifications to manage the load shedding. So what we've done is that, in the interest of time, we've come up with this NRS document, in this case edition 3, basically as a tool. So we are not instructing the system operator to do their job. They've been doing that for over 100 years, doing it excellently. What this tool does, it assists the system operator to very consistently and very effectively structure the load shedding scenario. Yeah. So, and just one more point. This is edition 3. Now, edition 2, which was in force until last week, went up to stage 8 load shedding, because we were generally load shedding up to stage 4 prior to that. This was 2017 when the edition 2 came out, and we never thought we'll go beyond stage 4. So we said, let's, as an NRS, go up to stage 8, so we mitigate that scenario. But as we know, we are now load shedding, generally at higher levels, including stage 6. And as an NRS, given the erratic nature and the instability of the grid, albeit Eskom's making some progress, we cannot give the assurance that we cannot go beyond stage 6 or beyond stage 8, especially going into the cold winter.
Okay.
So what we did, just to finish on that point.
Okay.
So what we did is that we're coming up with edition 3. We've given the system operator further tools to mitigate load shedding beyond stage 8. Yeah.
All right. So let's look at what scenario planning looks like. So yes, of course, we've got stage 8. We know what that looks like. I'm looking at a schedule where it's literally 4.5 hours in a block that we will be load shed for. So that's through the day. When we talk about a stage 16, which we're not saying it's going to happen, because that's what I'm gathering. This is just in place in case we need it, or the fact that, we're trying to stop a grid collapse if in fact we do get to a point like that. But if South Africa gets thrown into stage 16 load shedding, what does that look like? Because I think that's the big question people want to know in the simplest possible terms, because when it gets complicated and confusing, nobody understands. So if you can perhaps just tell us, stage 16 happens, what do we look like? What does it look like? How does the end user have to deal with this?
Okay, let me preface my response to that with the following important comment. If we did not have edition 3, right? In other words, we still had edition 2, then it would have meant that the system operator, together with the Munich control rooms, etc., if they went beyond stage 8, we did stage 9, stage 10. In fact, we don't believe we'll go beyond stage 10. Actually, the system operator people, the good people, would have gone into an emergency, sort of contingency mode, to accommodate the additional load shedding stages beyond stage 8. Okay, so and they are qualified to attend to that, but of course they're all humans, and we all know that in emergency situations, humans can make error. So that is why, as an NRS, we came up with edition 3, amongst other reasons, where we've taken the entire load of the country to very simply decrease the propensity of human error, so that when these good people go beyond stage 8, they have a tool, an excellent tool, to manage those load shedding stages. So that's one point. Now you asked me, what does stage 16 look like? So as per the standard, and we're saying that in the unlikely event of stage 16, in fact we don't believe we'll go beyond stage 9 or 10,
Can I pause you there? What does stage 9 or 10 look like? Because this is all information we don't know. So I genuinely am asking you, anything above stage 8 we've got, that's 13 and a half hours of no power. What does stage 9 and 10 look like? And then we can build our way to 16. So when you keep saying we don't see above stage 10, so give me a scenario, what does stage 10 look like? And then what does stage 16 look like?
That's fine. What we made a significant change from edition 2 is that, if you recall, the previous scenario was that Eskom always said that each stage was equivalent to approximately 1,000 megawatts. That caused a lot of confusion, etc., etc. So what we've done now, very quickly, we've now allocated a percentage to each stage. So very simply, if you take the forecasted demand less what's available on the grid and the curtailment, if that was 5%, that's stage 1. If it was 10%, that was stage 2. So if you look at stage 9, that's 9 by 5, so it would mean that 45% of the national load would be load shed. If you look at stage 10, that's 10 by 5, that's 50%. If you look at stage 16, in the unlikely event, that's 16 by 5, that's 80%. So 80% of the load on the national grid would be load shed, and that would happen for plus or minus 24 hours.
So basically, I mean, that would be a situation where most of the country is in darkness except for, and we hope that those areas, those very emergency area bound that you, whether it be hospitals or whatever the case may still get some power, but the rest of the country would be in absolute darkness. I mean, doesn't that in effect almost look like a grid collapse?
No. Let me emphasize the following 2 points. Load shedding globally is the most efficient and effective tool to prevent a grid from going into a blackout situation or total collapse. Albeit, and I say this with the most respect, even though you could be at stage 16 load shedding, even with all the hardships, and I fully attest to that, we are not in a blackout situation. You'd rather be in and I say this with respect again, in a load shedding stage than being in a blackout. The other aspect, Leanne, is that higher stages of load shedding, even if you're at stage 16, and I say this with the utmost humility, even if you're at stage 16, the higher stage does not mean you're closer to a blackout. I repeat, higher stages of load shedding does not mean that the grid is closer to a blackout, because the good people at National Control System Operations, the Munich control rooms, have a number of tools in the kitty or in the armor to prevent the grid from going into a blackout. And that's why we are reasonably confident and safe as an NRS to give the public that comfort that with the work that we've done, with the work that the Eskom generation people are doing, with the electricity ministry and we as NRS, we are safe in saying that even in the winter, and given that the current grid is erratic and unstable, we will not go into a total collapse of the grid or into a blackout situation. We may have, in this winter, increased levels of load shedding, but we will not get into a blackout situation.
I suppose maybe it is hard for South Africans to look on and believe what they are being told, because, you know, granted, this has got nothing to do with load shedding, but when it doesn't even matter. But when you have areas that, say, have not had power for weeks on end, for some that haven't had days on end, it's very hard for anybody to listen and believe what's going on, and that there isn't a major issue that South Africa is facing with when it comes to power. And this is just a reality. But here's the story. Stage 16 has been approved. That's what we could go up to. And in a nutshell, as Vally Padayachee has explained to us, basically that means 80% of the power grid will have to be shut down at a time in order to load shed and prevent a total blackout. So at least we understand, Vally, what this actually means. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for talking and explaining it to us. Vally is the chairman of the Management Committee of the NRS Association of South Africa, discussing that approval of the NERSA National Rationalised Specifications Association of South Africa, which is the NRS, which could see the country go up to stage 16. Eskom says this is to prevent a national blackout or a total electricity grid collapse. If you want to comment, you know where to get hold of us.